I saw this really cool thing on TikTok, so we're going to grab some beans, watercolor paper, any kind of paper that you can use on with watercolors will work fine, and we're just going to make piles. So, and then we're going to trace around the piles, and then we're going to see where that takes us. So I'm just going to grab some beans here and just randomly put them in clumps. You could absolutely do this in your journal in a 2-page spread. And this is just process art. It's not supposed to look pretty. So I'm going to just take a permanent marker and trace around these piles. Now, if you don't happen to have beans for this, you can use beads. Just use whatever small object you have hanging around. These beans I use for other crafts, but so they're dedicated just to crafting, but you're just going to trace around something. I mean, you can use thumbtacks if you have a box of those, paper clips. Anything will really work, but just take your time. You can also use a thicker marker, maybe a thicker Sharpie. I'm using a thin one here because I wanted thin lines, but just take your time. This actually does not take very long at all. I think maybe I spent I don't know, I have it sped up to 3 times. I don't know, maybe 5 minutes. So don't overthink it. You can move the clumps around and kind of lay things out. You'll see that I'm going to go back in and add more too, but just have fun. Enjoy the process. This is just process art. So simple and easy, and you can totally do it. Okay, so that was fun. Let's add more of them. Just a few more, just in some of the blank spots. And I'm using a thin Sharpie, but feel free to use whatever pen that you want. And this is so fun. I mean, you can do this, and I hope that you will do it because it's so much fun. This is my favorite part. This is where we add colors. So I just have a variety of different brushes here. I will link my favorite watercolor sets down below, but really just use whatever you have. I'm sure all of us hopefully have a Crayola set. Works great. Crayola is awesome. They have pigmented colors. It works really, really great, and you can make a ton of colors just by mixing them together. But just pick colors that speak to you. Don't overthink this and fill in those shapes. You can even use acrylic paint, or you can even take school markers and just activate them with water, and that works out too. But just keep working. I'll have some recommendations for you in case you want to know what watercolors I like using, but use what you have. Okay, so I have it all filled up with color. So I'm thinking, what do I want to do with the background? I think that I actually want to add doodles to the background. Okay, so for this, I would just say, just pick the colors that speak to you. Don't overthink it. Do your thing. Just relax and have a good time and don't overthink it. So I'm gonna let this dry slightly, and then I'm gonna grab my markers, probably a Sharpie and a big Sharpie, and we're gonna add some doodles. That's it. So this is so fun. This is called process art. You just grab some beans, put them in clusters, trace around them. Anyone can do this. It's so fun, super easy. It's not about making anything pretty. I mean, you could stop here, and I think this looks pretty awesome. I would cut it up and use it in a project for sure, but it was just fun to do. So I did end up using like the smaller brushes, and I switched to kind of a bigger brush because I was tight, and you see that I got outside of the lines. That's totally fine. So kind of explore, see what works. And I am even going to take this a step further. We're going to add a splatter because I want to. I want this to be loose and fun. So my favorite color. Let's put a splatter on here, or 2 or 5 or whatever you want. There you go. Maybe add some gold too. And I think that would be like cool looking without anything else done to it. But we're gonna let this dry. Now we really have to let it dry because I splattered it. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so this is really my favorite part, is adding doodles. So I'm just grabbing 2 sides, pins, Sharpies, and I'm just adding marks on my paper. Make sure that your surface is super dry before you start this, and just start filling in with shapes. Don't overthink it. I know it can be a little bit intimidating. I have a creative challenge on Instagram, and then I have most of the videos on YouTube about how to create marks, but just start adding simple shapes, dashes, overlapping shapes. It works out great. And if you want to know kind of my favorite shapes and what I like using, I do have a Skillshare class that deals with watercolor and doodling, so I will link that below, and you can get it for 30 days for a free trial for free, and the other classes too on Skillshare. But really simple. Just don't overthink it. Take a deep breath and just feel in between those shapes. You can do it.
She's waiting for love to be realized. I'll send her my heart covered as a gift, and hope that you'll take it into her side.